With the recent addition of Tokyo Ghoul's Ken Kaneki to the killer roster in the new PTB, came a slew of other changes that are also worthwhile. One of the more striking changes that stood out to me was a buff to the perk Deathbound. Previously, whenever a survivor would heal another survivor, it would cause them to scream and reveal their location, and become oblivious until they lose a health state when further than 8 meters from the survivor that they healed. But with the new update, it's going to be buffed so that they must remain within 4 meters of the survivor they healed in order to not be oblivious. Now, under normal circumstances, this perk is not very good, but with Dead by Daylight's game balance frequently disincentivizing hooking and incentivizing a slug-heavy playstyle, Deathbound is actually one of the strongest perks in the entire game. And to add on to that, I want to add in an example of how leaving survivors on the floor in a lot of cases is just straight up better than hooking them. I'm going to be showcasing a game that was captured over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/AbsolvedLIVE, link to which is in the description below, and describing how a game that would have otherwise been completely unwinnable through the hooking method was won through sheer pressure of leaving survivors on the floor. Alright, so right off the beginning, we already have Eyrie of Crows, a map that is obviously not favorable to killer, primarily. Lots of safe pallets everywhere, lots of just a very strong main building with a very strong window. I usually just set the portals up by generators largely because survivors will oftentimes not be able to help themselves when it comes to cleansing it, so it almost kind of serves as like a miniature slowdown in a way. And he's already pre-throwing and trying to blind at the light, so they're just going to run the gambit, the circuit rather, of just running around the entire map. Just pre-throwing everything. They're already starting with the main building running too, so this map is very much stacked, and now it is getting changed on the upcoming release with the new Tokyo Ghoul killer. So there are going to be some minor differences. I'm not really too sure. I haven't really seen them yet, so I don't know how it's going to differ much, but especially on a map like this is Demogorgon, yes, he does shred through pallets, but when everybody and their mother is pre-throwing every single pallet on the map, by the time you finish running through every single pallet, the game's pretty much over. That's just unfortunately the way it is, but I try to take advantage of that. There's a lot of scenarios like this too, where when I play Survivor and I hesitate to throw the pallet, like right here, the killer will be completely like body blocking my prompt to throw it, and I don't get it. But when I play killer, that just never seems to ever happen. I never like am able to block the survivor from throwing the pallet. It just never happens. And now here it starts. Pre-throw Peter got down. Now, if I would have picked up pre-throw Peter and hooked him, they would have had more time to just focus on gens, and they would have left him on the hook until second 69 and then unhooked him, right? While 2 or more survivors were just pushing out gens. But when you leave them on the floor like that, that puts a finite timer on them. They have to pick them up within 4 minutes. They don't have that, 65-second blanket of just do gens that they would have had I hooked this survivor. So they have to play in a more panicked state. And that is why this game is just not balanced around hooking. Hooking serves very little benefit. The survivors are not really put into a position of panic. They don't, have to rush to pick him up off the floor. Or sorry, they don't have to rush to unhook them because there is no negative effect whether you unhook them instantly or wait until the very last second. So most survivors will, again, just sit on gens and push them out, especially since they nerfed it from the killer perspective to 70 seconds instead of 60 for these longer hook states. Now, I don't really think they've started to heal up yet, but because I do have Deathbound on, whenever they do heal, whenever they're spread further than 8 meters from the survivor they healed, they will not hear a terror radius at all, and it's actually getting buffed in the next chapter coming out in a few weeks. So my favorite perk in the game at this very moment is already getting a major buff to it on top of it. Now, under normal circumstances, I would say Deathbound is a very mid perk. It's not good. Like, if you're playing regular Hook by Daylight, it's just not worth it. But when you play it like this, in the way that, unfortunately, behavior has pushed the balance of the game towards just leaving people on the floor, where it is more beneficial to do that, Deathbound is actually very strong. If they're very, intent on picking survivors up off the floor, you will get a ton of deathbound value and probably catch a lot of people off guard. So I could have just waited for him to pick the slug up off the floor, re-downed her, and then downed him. But honestly, I didn't really care at this point, because I was still going to win anyway, high chance. Very unlikely that they would even be able to come back from this. And just like that, a game that would have been unwinnable had I gone for hooks, I just completely already ended it in like the span of a minute and a half. Now, if I would have been going from hook to hook to hook to hook to hook to hook to hook, the game would have been completely over. Resetting is so fast in Dead by Daylight that healing is not really a negative thing to do. Behavior likes to treat resetting as if it's a luxurious expense of your time, but it really isn't. It's very easy to unhook somebody, heal them in a couple of seconds, and then get back on gens while you down and hook the next survivor. And then that's going to continue to happen as you cycle through each hook, meaning every chase you're going to be hitting from healthy to injured to downed, right? It's just a massive expense of your time because everybody is almost always going to be healthy because there's no reason not to heal. It does not really expend your time very much. And yeah, that's just why leaving them slugged on the floor like this keeps them constantly injured. It keeps them constantly on the back foot. And that's just how strong it is. And with Deathbound getting buffed in the near future, it's going to be a little bit better too, because it's going to be even harder for them to tell where you're coming from. They could even say, is this the new meta from Fetish? Right there. Yeah, I don't think Fetish has been around very often, so like when he sees me doing this, the brand new meta, and it ends in this domination right here, you already know.